Welcome to Block 17 of Cheshire Quilters Guild 2018 Block of the Month. This is for September. Block 17 is 1904, is the 1904 star, and it's the second of two blocks. The other block is Grandma's Star, Block 16, so look for that video separately. The first thing we're going to do is make a square in the square unit with our fabrics B and D. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew two triangles on opposite sides, press the seams out, trim the dog ears, and then sew on the other two, and then we need to trim the unit down to size. So I'll come back when I have mine sewn and pressed so we can see how to trim it down. Okay, here's my square in the square unit. And now I want to trim it to 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. So the points are going to be at half that. So half of 4 3/4 is 2 3/8. And I want them to also be at the 1/4 inch seam allowance. So this ruler with the 1/4 inch markings on the two sides is great for this. So I'm at the 2 3/8 on the top and 2 3/8 over here on the side. And then it appears to be I'm about 2 3/8, 2 3/8. So it looks like I'm good and square. I can trim these two sides, and then I can rotate the unit around and trim it to 4 3/4. And now I can put the 4 3/4 lines on the two sides I've previously trimmed. And if everything works out perfect, which it looks like it didn't quite, then this is at the 2 3/8 and 1/4. And it looks like I'm a little bit, yeah, that's it. Okay. I move the ruler up a little bit. I'm a little bit fat on the bottom side here, so I'm moving it up a little bit so I can get the 1/4 inch at the top. And let's just rotate it around. I should have just a little bit of a sliver to trim off on the very top side. And if I do that trim, see that little sliver? My ruler was off by that little amount. So there's my square in the square unit. The next thing we need to do is prepare our rectangles to be side triangles. And right now I have all 4 of them right side up. I need to turn a pair of them over. And the best way to do this, to remember to do it, we want mirror image triangles for the sides. And so if we layer the two triangles wrong sides together, I can lay my ruler on. Pull it down here. I layered them wrong sides together, and I can lay my ruler on corner to corner and cut these into side triangles. This is the same procedure as was done in block 16. If you've already watched that video, then you know what I'm trying to do here. So you can see from the top triangle, top rectangle, I got 2 triangles that look like this. From the bottom rectangle, I get 2 that are facing the opposite way, and that's what we need, is mirror image. So I'm going to cut my other rectangles, and I'll meet you back here. Alright, so there's my 4 side triangles, 4 of each direction. So the next thing to do is we're going to trim off the sides of our squares, and this is also like was done in block 16, but the way we did that is we folded in half so we could mark the center, and then I came up with a shortcut. I'm going to take these to my to my pressing station, and I'm going to press those creases at the end just to make it nice and sharp, and I'll meet you back here when I get those creased. Alright, here I am back with them pressed. It doesn't matter if you do them inside or right sides or wrong sides out, it doesn't make any difference. And this end on each of them I've really pressed good, and the other end's a little softer. So you now you've got 2 choices for how to trim these. One is to open it up and then cut from the top point out to each point, which is what I did in block 16. But while I was trimming for block 16, it dawned on me, if I just leave it pressed in half, I can cut these just like we trimmed the rectangles just from corner to corner. And when I do that, I get my center triangle that I need. So I'm going to cut the rest of these, again, from the point, the folded point to the opposite corner. And there's our triangle. So I'm going to trim the other two, and then I'm going to sew these together like I sewed the ones for block 16, where we take the large end of the triangle like this. So there's going to be our square. So we're going to line these up exactly, and the long one's going to extend past. That's okay. Stitch our 1/4 inch seam and press it out, and do that on all 4 of our triangles. So I'll meet you back here when it's time to trim, because these get trimmed to a different size than the ones we trimmed for block 16. Okay, now we're going to trim these to 4 3/4 inches. So again, we're going to put our ruler on. We want the top point to be at a 1/4 inch, and the half of 4 3/4 is the 2 3/8, like we did before. And then at the bottom, we want the seams to go through the point that's up 1/4 in 1/4, so it's at the 4 1/2 mark. So over here, 4 1/2, and the 1/4, so we're good there, good there, and good there, and we can trim 2 sides. We can then turn the unit around and trim it to 4 3/4, and we shouldn't have any problems with the seams being at the 1/4 inch marks, and we're at a 1/4 inch there, so that's wonderful. So there we go, there's one of those, and I'm going to need to trim the other 3 the same way. Again, we're going to put it so the 1/4 inch line and 2 3/8 is at the top point, and we're going to move so we get the 4 1/2 and 1/4 at the other 2 points. It's actually going to be that line, up 1/4, in 1/4, in there, and up there, and so forth. So I'm going to finish trimming these up, and then we'll come back to see what we need to put together next. Now that we have these units trimmed up, we're going to stitch a triangle on each end. So we're going to do that for all 4 of our units, and we're going to press the seam toward the added triangle and trim off the dog ears. I'll meet you back here when we have those done. Alright, so here's these units made from step 11, and what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 of these and sew them on either side of our square and a square unit. So we're going to get this will be the center section of our block, so we're going to sew those together. These seams we're going to press open. So I'll meet you back here when I have that done, and we'll look at what the next step is. So here's our center section all pieced together. This is going to go diagonally in our unit, so it's going to look very much, our block, it's going to look very much like that. But to finish up, what we're going to need to do is we're going to make some half square triangles, and we're going to use our small squares to do that. So I'm just going to layer these up, stitch my 2 seams, cut them apart, and then the key on these is that these are going to get trimmed to 2 5/8. So I'll come back here so we can work on the trimming of these to the 2 5/8. Okay, now I'm going to trim these to 2 5/8, and the easiest way to do that is to put your 45 of your ruler down the seam line and make sure you've got 2 5/8. You're going to have plenty of room. You can trim 2 sides square, and then you rotate it around, and you can just put the 2 5/8 on the 2 sides you've already trimmed, like that, and trim up your squares. So we're going to do that on all of them, and then what's left to do with these is to take these and you're going to sew 2 triangles on, one even with that side and then you're going to press it to the triangle, trim off the dog ear, and then you're going to sew on another one. So we're going to do that for all 4 of our half square triangles, and I'll meet you back here when we finish that up. Okay, it's time to put together the other sections of our block. So we have these units and these units, and we're going to stitch them together like this. On other sides, we're going to make sure this edge is even, and those will be the side sections of our 1904 block. And we're going to press these seams open, and when I get that done, I'll come back here and I'll show you how to put the whole block together. So there's our side sections. Orient them, and here's our center section. So we can just sew these 3 pieces together, matching up our seams to get our 1904 star. So let me do that. These little dog ears can also get trimmed off on the sides, and I'll meet you back here. Alright, there's my 1904 star block. The only thing left to do is to trim it to 12.5 inches, which is basically going to just trim off those pesky dog ears, and it should work out that all of your star points will be right at the 1/2 inch from the, or sorry, 1/4 inch from the edge. So I'm just going to quickly trim 2 sides, rotate it, and trim the other 2 sides. But there you have it, the 1904 star, which is block 17 for the Cheshire Quilters Guild 2018 block of the month, and is the second of 2 blocks for September. So also look for the video for the Grandma Star, which was block 16. So there you have it, 1904 star. See you next month when we have just a single block, and that will be true for the October, November, and December. We'll each only have 1 block to bring us to our total of 20 blocks. So I look forward to seeing you next month. Bye-bye.